This video is going to be kind of a two-in-one kind of deal. What I'm going to do is I'm going to test this gauge and this new oil pressure sending unit that I got at AutoZone. I'm going to also review this DC power supply that I got from Amazon. I believe it's a 30 volt, 30 amp power supply. But I'm going to show you, these are the leads that it came with, and the description on this power supply on Amazon said that these are kind of a freebie, they're just a giveaway, and that you really shouldn't use these very often or for anything, you know, any kind of heavy testing, because they're just thin, little chintzy leads. So I bought these also off of Amazon. They're heavier gauge, but also if you look back here, you can plug another one into the back of it like that. That's what I wanted. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do, this is a Jess Verde is the brand, and I've used it a little bit, not very much, but a few times, and it seems to work pretty good. So the first thing you want to do, you got it plugged in. You want to plug your cables in, and because I don't need a whole lot of amperage for this, put your leads together, then turn it on. And right now it's at 3.5 amps. So I'm going to turn that down because 1 amp is plenty. So 0.944 amps, that's plenty enough. Then take them apart. It's at 14.5 volts. I'm going to turn that down just to about 13.5. Then I'm going to turn it off, and we're going to hook up our oil sending unit, or our oil pressure gauge, I mean, and our oil sending unit. And so what the first thing I'm going to do, I hook up my power lead, and I'm going to hook up my ground. Then I'm going to use this guy here, plug it into the ground on here. Actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to change these around. I'm going to put this thinner one on the ground on the gauge, and this one has a better clip. So I'm going to hook it to the ground, or to the case of the oil pressure sending unit. I'm going to set it right here where I can kind of get easy access. Then I'm going to hook this up to the gauge where it says where the input signal comes from, which is really actually an output. And I'm going to hook that on there. So we've got it all hooked up, and I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to set my air pressure on here. I'm going to use air pressure to test this gauge. I'm just going to set it to 30. I've already tested it, and I've already been all through it, and it works, or it was working. Of course, now that it's on camera, it probably won't. Now we turn this on. We got 13.8 volts, hardly any amps. Then I need to get my air down here. All I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this sending unit sensor and give it some pressure. And there we go. 30 psi, back to 0. I'm going to test all my gauges, even the new ones that I get, and all the pressure sending units and temperature sending unit, all that stuff. I'm going to test all of it before I use it. And really what I'm doing right now, I'm just kind of working on the instrument cluster, which is why I'm testing the gauges, which is why I went and bought a new oil pressure sending unit. not anywhere near needing an oil pressure sending unit. Not really anywhere near needing the gauges either, but I got to a point to where I didn't have anything else really to work on at the moment, so I thought I'd just start looking at those and seeing, making sure that they all work. And the voltage gauge did not work, and the temperature gauge, I somehow messed around and accidentally broke the needle on it, so I had to replace both of those. I'm going to be putting a tachometer in this truck, and it came with a big fuel gauge. So I'm going to put a tachometer in instead of this, and I'm going to get a small fuel gauge that size to go in it. And I had to replace the printed circuit that goes on the back of the instrument cluster because it was falling apart, as they always are, excuse me. And I'm going to have to replace the lens because it's foggy and you can't really see through it. So, and I'm going to replace the speedometer because the speedometer is an 85-mile-an-hour speedometer and one at least 100-mile-an-hour speedometer. So I'm looking at speedometers right now. I want an electronic one, but I don't want it to be GPS driven because there's a lot of areas around where I live where you don't get a GPS signal, period. And I don't want to lose my speedometer simply because I'm driving through a mountain or through the mountains somewhere and don't have GPS signal. So I'm looking for just a regular reluctor driven speedometer that matches these gauges. And so far I haven't found one, and I probably won't be able to find one, so I might have to just go with just a 100-mile-an-hour gauge and run a speedometer cable. But anyways, so far this has worked pretty good. It was $50. So frankly, I'm used to having a much nicer one than the place I used to work at. We had dual power supplies. So we had one unit that had two separate supplies on it, and you could do all kinds of testing with them, and they were high dollar, very good. But this one seems to be working pretty good. I tested the voltage with my voltmeter, and it's identical. It's spot on the money. So for $50, you can't really go wrong with that. So if you're looking for a DC power supply to do little stupid tests like this, so far that's working great. And it does have a fine adjustment here, and then the coarse adjustment for voltage and amperage is over here. It's quite a nice little unit, and it's super small, super light. It's great.